Hey everyone, it's Raul Gonzalez from Medicare Agent IQ.
And I'm Oscar Ibieta.
And so today we are talking about a post-AEP strategy. I think a lot of agents get to a point where they're like, all right, all done. We're packing it up and I'm done. And it's December 8th and I'm just going to rest until January 15th or something like that. You know, and I think that there's some danger in that because if you have some momentum right now, you don't want to lose it. I think that's a big deal. I see a lot of agents that are losing momentum this time of the year, and rightfully so, right? It's the holidays and everything like that. I think there can be some balance though, where you can get some work done, get some planning done, and then you can go from there. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. So
I think the days are gone. The days of early on, I remember when I first got in, everyone would say Medicare, that's a seasonal business. You guys are only busy 2 months out of the year. And really the reality is we're busy all year long. And as an agent, you can be busy all year long.
You should be like, that's the idea is if you're just doing this seasonally, which, you know, if that's what you prefer, then who am I to tell you that that's not okay? But if you want to make a career, if you want to put yourself in a financial situation to where you're waking up in the morning, 3 or 4 years from now, you're waking up in the morning and you're like, okay, now it doesn't matter. I'm making $10,000 a month no matter what, right. Those kinds of things. Then you've got to put in that work right now and don't do this just seasonally. If you do it seasonally, you may get there. Right? Like there's some agents that just go really, really hard during AEP and maybe they get 300 enrollments, 250 enrollments during AEP. By all means, take a break.
But that wasn't what their career looked like early on. Like maybe they're doing that now where they can work it seasonally, but early on they were working hard year round to build a book of business, to build that residual income. Yeah,
you got to get to that. You got to get to that point because it's going to be very difficult to make those high numbers if you hadn't laid the groundwork somewhere. Yeah. So, you know, keep working. We got to get that momentum going. One of the big things that we have is kind of looking at the way that individuals are paid in Medicare. So right now you're going to get paid a pretty big chunk of change in January, right? That first Wednesday, Thursday of January, you're going to get paid a pretty big chunk of change for all the sales that you made. But you won't start getting renewals on that until January of 2025. Okay. But here's the thing. This is the most important part, in my opinion, is that everything else that you do in 2024, February 1st effective, March 1st effective, April 1st effective, all the way through November 1st of 2024 effective date, you are building what your renewals are going to look like next January. And this is where agents get like, man, I feel like it's so short-sighted to just be like, man, I did great, my AP numbers, and then just start getting paid. You have got to think big picture. How big can I build my renewals for January of 2025? That's what you're working toward right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other part of it is in January, when you get that lump sum payment, because right now we're not getting paid, but come January, you're going to see that paycheck for all the business that you wrote. And so it's easy to get maybe a little bit to let off the gas and say, okay, I've got some money in the bank. I've got a new set of renewals that are coming in and I've got my AEP check. Things are good. Like I can take some time off. And I think a lot of times we fall victim to that. And it's not until 2 or 3 months later that we're like, oh, I need to get it going again. And right. Before you know it, you've spent the first quarter of the year just relaxing, hanging out, had it in cruise control when really you should have been building towards your 2025 residuals towards that campaign, or putting a campaign together to build towards that.
I think that's the danger in just quitting on December 8th. And I always, did you ever, like, we're generationally different, but did you ever watch the Flintstones growing up?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on the Flintstones, I always use this illustration for myself, and I kind of thinking about there's certain people who will at 5 o'clock or on December 8th, they jump on the dinosaur and yabba dabba do their way out of there. And that's a great danger, not just because, okay, like on December 8th, sure. I mean, what do you always take a day off on December 8th, right, and you go and enjoy it. Absolutely. But what I'm talking about is people, it's kind of like people who, like, if you don't you don't work out for a month, how much harder is it to go and start working out again when you're ready? It's a lot easier to just stay with it, right? Be consistent. In that same way, don't just yabba dabba do your way out of there on December 8th. You gotta put in that work, because the biggest danger that I see is people, they not even just taking that first month off, like from December 8th really till about January 8th. What I see is people who end up taking January until January 8th, but then it just continues on because it's hard to get off the sofa once you have made it. That's what I do. And I know an agent who literally rolled into AEP in that same situation, just kind of like not with no sense of urgency, nothing. And their AEP numbers really struggled when I know they could have done a lot better because they chose to just kind of roll out of bed. So what would you say, Oscar, to an agent who maybe is in a situation where they're like, hey, look, I don't have any financial worries. I'm good where I'm at right now. What would you tell them?
Yeah, you've got to plan for the future. You've got to think big picture. Where do you picture yourself 3, 4, 5 years from now? Yeah. And you've got to operate with that mindset. You can't operate with just simply saying, okay, I'm good, because if I'm being completely honest, I've been there, and I've been in that situation where I was like, okay, I'm comfortable, I'm doing well, I'm going to let off the gas. And then it turned out, I was like, well, maybe I don't want to let off the gas. There's a lot more that I want to accomplish for myself, for my family. And so think about what's important to you and what drives you, and then what that's going to look like a little bit down the road. And then you got to work backwards and think about, what can I do as an agent? What can I do here with my career to get to where I want to be a year from now, 3 years from now, and 5 years from now? But my advice would be just to always continue to think forward, think down the road, and have a game plan, have some kind of strategy in place.
Yeah, there's a quote, I can't even remember where I heard it, but I love it. It says, give up what you want right now for what you want most. And you can apply that to everything, right? You can apply that to this, and that, you may want to just go sit back and relax. You may want to just take, nothing but vacations all year long. But is that going to help you get where you want to be, or is it going to stop you and stump you, and then you're stuck? So make sure that you're doing that. So on to the next. I think we spent enough time on that, but it's just my hope is that I hope that we encourage people in this, like just stay with it. Like, you're not done yet. Like, the job's not done, I think, So one of the first things that you need to make sure to do is, after AEP would be, I always like the idea of the 30, 60, 90 day follow-up phone calls. And so what I'm talking about is after enrollment, the beginning of January, you want to call those clients, or in the middle of January, and all of the clients that you enrolled, and you want to just check in on them. Hey, how are you? And what else would you tell them?
Did you get your card? Yep. Make sure that they're getting their card, because in addition to that, I think a part of that is that January, the reality is we all know it's a customer service month. It can feel like it's, probably one of your heaviest customer service months, because you've got all of these people that you've enrolled who are transitioning from one carrier to another. They haven't gotten their card. They're not sure how to use, those extra benefits. They have questions. And so you want to make sure that if you're going to do this, if you want to be successful in this business, I believe that January is a month where you can really set yourself apart from other people that are in the industry, from other agents, and that's by answering the phone. In addition to putting together these call campaigns at 30, 60, 90, you've got to make sure that you answer the phone and that you're fielding these calls, and whatever issue that it is that they're having, be prepared to resolve those issues. So checking in on them, in that first month, making sure that they understand that they've gotten their card, that they, make sure you take advantage of your over-the-counter benefits, whatever extra benefits that they may have. Make sure that you have a conversation with them and just remind them about what it is that they've got built into their coverage. And then maybe that's an opportunity to ask for some referrals, to say, hey, if there's anybody else that you know who could benefit from a plan like the one that we enrolled you with, I'd love to help them. Could you share my phone number? Do you still have my business cards, that I left with you? Can you please share that? Can you please share my information?
Yeah. So a couple of thoughts that I have on that is absolutely every single time that you make a call or you talk to your clients, you do want to ask for a referral. You do want to put it out there. And the reason is that if you've done a good job throughout the presentation and every time that you've spoken to them since, it's part of what you talk about. And you're dropping seeds every single time, and you dropped many seeds during your presentation. You're dropping more and more seeds. Hopefully that will lead to referral. I would maybe do it a little different. For me, I might say, hey, so at the end of the call, so everything's going well with your plan. How are you liking it? Oh, good. Hey, what I would love to do is to help any other of your, and I turn this into more than just like a last, I throw it into, what I would love to do is really help some of your friends enroll into a plan just like this. And so who else can you think of that I would be able to help right now? And so a lot of times the answer is no, but it might do two things. One, sometimes it does that question, who else can you think of? You're like, who else can I think of? Mm-hmm. And but other times it might be that the next day they're at the doctor's office and they overhear someone complaining, oh, my insurance didn't cover this or that. And then they might say, hey, you know what? Why don't you call my guy? Because I've kind of laid that foundation and I've let people know all throughout, I really, really could use your referral. So that's one thing. I think that the average agent, if you look at like when you're in school, there's average grades, right? The average agent is around 75, right? That was that's what an average is not age, but the average grade. The average grade is 75, right? And so the average agent, I think, returns phone calls. I think that's pretty standard that most agents will return phone calls. There's those below average that we hear don't even return phone calls, and which is a bad move. But I'd say your average agent does. But those B+ and the A agents are proactively reaching out to their clients. I think that's such an important thing that we need to make sure that we're doing. So be proactive and reach out. So on the 30-day call, because we don't want to be kind of redundant, I might do on the 30-day calls and say, hey, did you get your ID card? Did you get to the gym yet? I know that was something that you looked at on the plan, when we spoke last time that you thought you might use. You want me to look up a gym for you? Is everything going well with your plan? That's the first call. Maybe on the 60-day calls, I might throw in, hey, have you set up that first dentist appointment? Maybe I can help look up a dentist for you. And then, but again, just checking in. And then of course, dropping, I'd love a referral. I'd love to help some of your other friends. Look at the level of care that I deliver. I'm staying in contact with you. I'm sure there's friends that you have that would benefit from that kind of care, right? So I throw that out there, and then on the 90-day, it's very much the same. Just checking in. I like to, and I even tell them I like to call my customers the first 90 days just to be proactive. In my opinion, you never know if something could come up, and this is for agents. It's important to know, there are things that happen in those first 90 days that are frustrating to clients that may result in them changing their insurance without talking to you.
Yeah, maybe they regret the decision that they made.
They regret the decision. What else?
Yeah, they're like, oh gosh, I don't know, and I don't want to go back to roll to make this change. So let me just, for lack of a better term, I'm just going to go around him, go behind his back, and switch back to the insurance that I had. And what's important is if you do have clients who end up in that situation where they want to switch back, make sure that you've had that conversation with them. If you're an independent agent and you represent multiple carriers, make sure that you've had the conversation with them and letting them know, hey, look, if you decide that you want to make changes to your insurance plan, I want to be your first phone call. Make sure that you're reaching out to me. Don't don't call, the number on the back of your card, or don't call, the number on the TV commercial. If you ever have any questions, or if there are ever any concerns and you want to make any changes, please reach back out to me first.
Yeah, I think that would be huge, because another thing that can happen is maybe they went to the doctor, to their new doctor's office, and they ran into an agent there that was telling them, oh no, you selected the wrong plan altogether. And so then they do that, and they're like,
there's doubt.
Yeah. And so they're thinking about it, and then ring, ring.
Yeah.
There you are. And we're like, hey, they told me that I'm on the wrong plan, and this is what I do. Look, I personally think that after we sat, remember when we talked and I got to know you and know your situation, I personally think we picked the right plan for you. But here's what I would love to do. I'd love to come out to your home, and I'll compare that plan and show you this plan versus what you have right now, just to make sure that this is the right option for you. Yeah, sure, absolutely, come on out. So when you do that, you just saved yourself losing that customer. Or when those doubts come out, you just saved yourself all of those things. So I would absolutely make those phone calls. It's one of the most important things. And then I would call every 6 months after that. And I know that becomes difficult the bigger that your book gets. But that's why, if you think about it, because a lot of these people, there's people that I enrolled in the very first AEP that we did as, when I started this company, and they don't change their insurance. They are still with me. Rarely do I hear from them, and you're earning renewals to do that. So it's the least you could do would be to make a phone call, because for every client that stays with me, even though I personally I've been quite busy, and so building the agency, so I don't always I proactively reach out. For every client that stays with me, in spite of that, there's 2 clients that may have left, right? So you want to make sure that you're staying in contact with your clients. So next step on kind of your post-AEP strategy would be maybe plan your T65 campaigns if you haven't already. And so what does that look like? I like the idea of doing regular T65 seminars, regular seminars for people who are maybe a educational event, because there's less, less rules around doing educational events. Because you could possibly sell a Medicare supplement, so the rules are a little bit different. I like them. You can feed people. So that's the danger, though, right? Like, what's the danger in feeding the seniors?
You've got people coming out for a free meal. They're not coming out for that seminar. They're not coming out to learn about Medicare. They're just coming out for the free meal. But the reality is, those people are always going to be there.
Yep.
I think, you're going to have those people who show up and they just come for the free meal, and they've already got, the next free meal on the calendar with their next Medicare 101 later that week. But those aren't the people that we're looking for, obviously. The people we're looking for are those who really want to get educated on what Medicare is. They're going to be aging in soon, or if it's just somebody, they can bring a friend who maybe they're not turning 65, but they have Medicare and they just want to learn a little bit more about how Medicare works. It can lead to an opportunity for you. But yeah, it can be a little bit dangerous, right? When you're feeding people, and it can get expensive.
Yeah.
Remember, we're all independent agents and we're all business owners, and so we're having to take money out of our budget, aka our commissions, and reinvest that. And I think that's important, right? Is reinvesting into your business. Yes, but you don't want to overdo it to where you're overspending and spending way too much money where maybe the return isn't there. Gosh, I'm spending, hundreds of dollars on meals alone. And the return is not quite there.
The great part about the T65 strategy is obviously that the commissions are much higher for someone who's turning 65, but you're absolutely right. So the other day I was in one of the Facebook groups, and I found someone was saying that yeah, these people showed up to my T65 event, and I was like, don't come back. I'm like, so that's not my style. I wouldn't do that. But I would be honest. I've had it, and it's kind of a frustrating thing, and it's just part of the business. It's part of feeding people. But I've had people show up to, like, if I had one on Tuesday and one on Thursday at 2 different places, they show up to both of them. And they're like, oh wow, everything wasn't clear, so I figured I would come back one more time. Like, yeah, no, I was clear. I was clear that you were getting another free meal. So I think that that's a great part of a T65 strategy. There's a lot of different lead vendors out there that you can take advantage of. You can really just Google Medicare lead vendors. The one thing that I would do with those is just understand that there's, that the T65 market is where most agents are working. And because of that, you have to understand that when you send out those lead cards, even when you get them back, a lot of times it's a struggle to get them back on the phone. And that's just part of it. So understand that. I think another T65 strategy could be something that you do on Facebook, right? There's vendors, there's lead vendors for Facebook, but also just kind of make sure that you have a page of your own, and at some point we'll do a social media, how to. I think Facebook. Gosh, I was on it maybe 2007 for the very first time, and back then it was definitely a younger crowd, and I would say Facebook now is a much older crowd.
The older crowd now. Yeah. The younger crowd, those the kids,
right,
if you will, are looking at Facebook. They're like, that's a dinosaur. We don't mess with Facebook
anymore. Yeah. And so the way I look at it is like, man, what a great opportunity for people who are on Facebook that's a T65 opportunity. So just figure out ways to do that.
Yeah, and even there are other ways that you can put together T65 seminars. Maybe getting involved with going out in the community and finding senior centers, or getting in with churches and saying, hey, look, I'd love to have a relationship here, and maybe on a quarterly basis, I'd love to host a turning 65 seminar for people who come to church here, or for the senior apartment complex, where you just come out and again, you're building these relationships where you're not having to spend a whole lot of money in marketing this thing. You go where the seniors are at. But obviously that also is something that can take some time. You're having to go in and create these relationships with people. And another piece, another part of these Turning 65 campaigns is, remember, the return. Yes, the commissions are going to be a lot higher when you do get the enrollment, but also that enrollment is a lot further out. And so you have to make sure that you have the ability to follow up with these people and to stay in contact with them, because if they're not turning 65 for another 6 months, that means that you've got to keep them, you've got to remain in contact with them from January or February, whenever you meet with them, all the way through August, and you have to maintain the point of contact with them.
Yeah, I think that has to be part of your strategy. One, do I do a great job of following up? Am I gonna keep up with them? And so one thing that I would do is, if I talk to them 5-6 months before their birthday, it won't be 90 days out from their effective date that I talk to them again. I'm going to call them again. I'm going to check in, and I'm going to once again be proactive and say, hey, here's the reason I'm calling is I just wanted to check. Sometimes you might have extra questions. Did you get your Medicare card in? Did you, because remember we helped you apply. Did you get it? I just wanted to check in with you and just remind you I'll be the one. I'll be coming out there exactly 3 months before your birthday, and I will get you enrolled. But really wanted to check. Sometimes you might have seen a TV commercial, so I just wanted to say hello and check in on you. Some agents at this point, you could just text them also, like, hey, just checking in. I know we have our appointment set for such and such date, but one of the things I wanted to make sure to do is to make sure that everything is going smoothly, just via text, and just like, by the way, this is my cell phone number. Don't hesitate to text me anytime you have a question. Even if you're watching a TV commercial, don't hesitate to shoot me a text with that commercial, because what you're doing is making sure that they understand you're their agent. You're gonna be the one that's there for them if something were to happen. It really just kind of sets the whole tone for the relationship.
And what you're doing is you're making an impression from the very beginning all the way through the end and throughout the relationship, because now it's a relationship. They've got you for life. That's the attitude that you want to have when you meet with these people is, hey, I'm your agent for life, and you've got to invest in that, and you've got to be and so you're making that impression with that follow-up. But let's take it all the way back to even make sure that your presentation is down. Make sure, because what you're doing is you're auditioning for these people, and you have to give them a reason to choose you over those other free seminars that they're going to. So make sure that you've practiced the presentation and your delivery, and we've had conversations about this, right? Getting feedback from people, but make sure that your presentation is solid, because if it's not, then they may choose somebody else simply because of your poor presentation.
Yeah. I think about when you're doing an actual T65 like dinner or a presentation in that way. I know a guy who just kind of makes really corny jokes up there. And I think that there's a balance. Like you want to be funny, you want to be kind of engaging, but without don't make it almost. It has to appear effortless in order to make it work. Like I'm kind of funny. But I'm also not like two guys walk into a bar, like not that kind of joke, right?
Yeah, so my joke would probably usually be like, hey guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to make sure that we stay on schedule. We're only going to be here for about 3 hours tonight. and then that's
pause.
Yeah. So usually you get a laugh out of that. But again, the two guys walk into a bar. I don't know that I'd be making a joke like that.
Yeah. I mean, and again, everyone's style is different. If you can make it look like you're not trying too hard, if you can make it feel like I'm not wasting your time, those kinds of things, that's going to be the way to do it. So here's what I want to do. I want to go ahead and stop right there for today. And so this will be a two-parter, what to do after AEP. And the reason is we're running low on time already, and there's a lot more things that we want to talk about. But again, we just want to encourage everybody, like, don't let this be, okay, I'm done. Like just continue to get work done, but also take back, enjoy during the holidays, enjoy your family, enjoy all of those things. But just know that there's got to be balance. And again, like the same thing, just with using the analogy of exercise, it's a lot easier to get off the couch if you haven't been on it all the month of December, right? So I think that's another thing people tend to do in December, and they're just like, okay, I'll get to the gym on January 1st. So, but let's go ahead and wrap up there. So until next time, we want to remind everybody, we have our social media pages. We have of course YouTube, which we broadcast this podcast on, but we also have Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. So don't hesitate to reach out to us there if you have some questions, anything that you want us to cover. So until next time.